So,
My name is Edwin, I'm 80 years old. And today I want to talk to you about something no one likes to talk about lies. Not about big lies, not about betrayals or deception, about the small, everyday lies we tell every day without even thinking. Those innocent words that seem harmless, but over time take away from us what we value most: real closeness with other people. I've lived a long life. I was born in a small town in Pennsylvania where everyone knew everyone. I worked at a steel mill for 35 years until it closed. I was married for 53 years. I raised 3 children. I saw grandchildren be born and great-grandchildren grow up. I had friends, colleagues, neighbors, and only now in my twilight years do I finally understand how many years I lost through petty dishonesty, not because I was a bad person, but because I thought I was protecting myself, that it was right, that all real men do this. Let me explain what I mean. When my wife asked me, "How are you?" I would say, "Fine," even when things were bad, even when I was worried about work, afraid for my health, felt lonely in the middle of a crowd. Fine, that was my universal shield word. It closed all doors to my soul. I thought being strong meant not showing weakness, not burdening others with my problems. Coping on my own, as my father taught me, as his father taught him. My wife Dorothy did the same thing. When she was in pain, she would say, "Everything's fine, don't worry about me." When she needed help, she would say, "I'll manage myself, you have enough worries." We both played this game for 50 years. 2 actors on one stage who never took off their masks, even at home, even in bed, even when we were alone. We thought we were protecting each other. In reality, we were building a wall brick by brick. And you know what's worst? We thought we loved each other, and we really did love, deeply, truly, with all our hearts. But we loved versions of each other, edited, groomed, safe versions, not real people with fears, doubts, and pain. I loved a woman who always copes. She loved a man who never fears. And both these images were fiction. I remember one incident that haunts me still. I was 58. I went for my annual checkup, thought formality. But the doctor looked at the results and said in that voice you immediately hear, "Mr. Carter, we need to do additional tests. Maybe nothing serious, but maybe..." He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I came home and said nothing to Dorothy. She was making dinner, asked how the checkup went. I said, "Everything's great as always," and I went to the garage supposedly to fix something. Actually, I sat there in the darkness thinking about death. For 2 weeks I carried this inside me. Couldn't sleep at night, stared at the ceiling and imagined the funeral. She would wake up, ask, "Something wrong?" I would answer, "Everything's fine, just work." 2 weeks, 14 days, 336 hours of fear. Alone. The tests turned out normal. The doctor called. I almost cried with relief. I came home. Dorothy asked, "Why are you so happy?" I said, "Good day at work." Another lie. She never found out what I went through, and I never found out what she felt those 2 weeks, seeing me drift away. Those 2 weeks I spent alone with my fear, and Dorothy spent them next to me, but not with me. She felt something was wrong. I saw it in her eyes. But I wouldn't let her in. I thought I was protecting her. In reality, I was pushing her away. And this repeated again and again. For years, decades, a whole lifetime, we would say, "I don't need help," when we desperately needed it. I'm not offended when our hearts ached. I don't care when we did care. I'm not worried when our hearts were jumping out of our chests. Nothing terrible when the world was falling to pieces. Each such small lie was a brick in the wall between us. And over 50 years, this wall became so high that we could barely see each other from behind it. My father died when I was 42. Heart attack, right at the factory, at the machine where he'd worked for 30 years. He and I never talked for real. He was from that generation where men don't show emotions, where tears are shame, where "I love you" is only said by women and children. I didn't know if he was proud of me, didn't know what he feared, didn't know what he dreamed about when he was young, didn't know the real him. In his whole life, he never once said to me, "I love you," not once, and I never said it to him either, because we both thought it was weakness, that real men show love through actions, not words. He worked 6 days a week so we'd have a roof over our heads. I should have understood, but I needed to hear it, and he probably did too. We both never heard it. At his funeral, I stood by the coffin and thought, who was this person really? What did he dream about when he was 20? What did he regret on dark nights? What truly made him happy? Did he ever cry when no one was looking? I lived with him for 42 years and didn't know the answers to these questions because he never spoke, and I never asked. We played the roles of father and son, but were never just two people talking. With my own children, I repeated the same mistake. My eldest son Michael, when he was 15, asked me one evening, "Dad, were you ever afraid? Really afraid?" I looked at him. He was sitting on the edge of the bed, still so young, with eyes full of questions. And I said, "No, son, men don't fear." I lied. I lied to my 15-year-old son right to his face. I wanted to be an example of strength for him, to show what a real man should be. But in reality, I was teaching him that feelings need to be hidden, that being vulnerable is shameful, that when you're scared, be silent. When you're in pain, endure it. When you want to cry, grit your teeth. Now Michael is 53 and he's just like I was, closed, inaccessible. His wife complains that he never shares feelings. I know why, because I taught him that. My friend Randy, who I'd been friends with for 40 years, once confessed to me that he'd struggled with depression for years. We were sitting on his porch, drinking beer, watching the sunset, and he suddenly said, "Edwin, I wanted to die for 10 years. Every morning I'd wake up and think, what for?" I was shocked. We saw each other every week. We played poker, watched football, went fishing, and I noticed nothing. But when I asked him why he never told me, he looked at me and said, "Did you ever really ask, Edwin? Not just how are things between gulps of beer, but really, I always asked, how are things?" He always answered, "Fine," and we both played this game. Two adult men, two best friends who were afraid to tell each other the truth, afraid to look weak, afraid to break the unwritten rules of male friendship. Randy died 5 years ago, lung cancer. Why did we never really talk? I didn't know what to answer, because we were men. Because that's how we were raised. Because we were afraid. That's the most honest answer. We were just afraid. Here's what I understood after 80 years of life. These small lies, I'm fine, I'm not in pain, I don't need help, I don't care, they don't protect us, they isolate us. They create an illusion of closeness when in reality we remain lonely even among people, even with those we love most. Especially with those we love most. Dorothy got sick 7 years ago, pancreatic cancer. The doctor told us the diagnosis in a small office with fluorescent lighting. I remember how the lamps hummed. I remember how her hand trembled in mine. I remember how I wanted to say as usual, "Everything will be fine, we'll manage," but I stopped. Something in me broke. I looked at her, at this woman I'd lived with for 50 years, whom I loved more than my own life, and for the first time I told the truth. "I'm scared, Dorothy. I'm so scared I can't breathe. I don't want to lose you. I don't know how to live without you. I'm not ready." My voice trembled, my eyes filled with tears. For the first time in 50 years, I cried in front of her. And she cried too, but then she did something I'll never forget. She took my face in her palms, looked into my eyes and said, finally, you're with me. Finally, this is the real you. I've been waiting for this for 50 years, 50 years. She waited 50 years for me to become real. Those last 3 years that she lived were the closest in our marriage. No, we weren't happy in the traditional sense. We fought the disease. We went to chemotherapy, waited for results, prayed in hospital chapels, but we were finally honest. Finally saw each other as real, without masks, without shields, without lies. She told me about her fears, about the pain she'd hidden for years, about how lonely she was in our marriage, even when I was nearby, about how death scared her, but what scared her more was the thought that she would die never having known the real me. I told her about my fear of being left without her, about how I regretted the years when we were together, but not together. We cried together, laughed together, remembered our youth and marveled at how much time we'd wasted on foolish pride. We told each other secrets we'd kept for decades. We asked forgiveness for words said and unsaid. We were alive together, really alive, for the first time in 50 years. When she died, it was at dawn in May, when birds were singing outside the window. I held her hand, and I knew that she left knowing who I really was, not a perfect husband, not a strong hero. Not that image I'd built for 50 years. Just a person who loved her and was afraid of losing her, a person with fears and doubts. A real person. It was painful. God, how painful it was, but it was real. And that realness, it was worth all the pain, because we finally knew each other, not the images we created, not the masks we wore, but our real selves. Now when people ask me, "How are you, Mr. Carter?" I tell the truth. Today is hard. I miss my wife. Sometimes I forget she's gone and want to tell her something. Or today is a good day. I saw my grandchildren. They look so much like Dorothy that my heart contracts. People are surprised. They're not used to such honesty from an 80-year-old man, but then they too start telling the truth. And suddenly the conversation becomes real. My grandson James, he's 24, recently said to me, "Grandpa, you're the only adult I can really talk to. Dad never listens, just says everything will be fine. But you listen, and you don't pretend to know all the answers. That's because I stopped playing a role. Stopped pretending I know everything, that I'm not afraid of anything, that I have no doubts." And he felt he could be himself with me. Here's what I want to tell you. Honesty isn't about telling everyone everything. Not about being an open book to every passerby. Not about pouring your soul out to the first person you meet. It's about being real with those who are close, with those who love you and whom you love, with those you trust with your life, because you should trust them with your soul too. When you're in pain, say you're in pain. When you're scared, say you're scared. When you need help, ask for help. When you love someone, say it. When you're grateful, say it. When you're grieving, say it. This isn't weakness, this is courage. Real courage isn't hiding fear. Real courage is showing yourself as you are, without a mask, without a shield, without lies. I lost 50 years to small lies. 50 years when I could have been closer to the people I loved. 50 years when I could have really known my wife, my children, my friends. 50 years when I could have felt real connection instead of comfortable distance. Don't make my mistake, please. Don't waste your life on a game. Tonight, when someone asks you, "How are you?" try to answer honestly, not fine, not all good, but the truth. "Today's a hard day, I'm tired," or "I'm worried about work, don't know if I can handle it," or "I'm sad and I don't know why, but I'd like to talk about it." See what happens. Maybe the person will be surprised, or maybe they'll tell the truth too, and suddenly you'll become closer in one conversation than you were in years. Tell someone today what you've wanted to say for a long time. "I love you. I'm grateful you're in my life. I miss you. Forgive me for what I did then. I'm proud of you. You're important to me." Don't postpone it. Don't say later. Don't wait for the right moment. Because I know from my own experience, one day it becomes too late. And then those unspoken words stay with you forever. They don't disappear, they just hurt. I'm 80 years old. I live alone in the apartment where Dorothy and I lived for 40 years. Her sweater still hangs in the closet. Her cup still stands on the shelf. Every morning I look at her photo above the fireplace and think, how good that we finally found each other at the end. How sad that not at the beginning. How many years we lost to fear. How many words we didn't say. How many hugs we missed. How many conversations never happened. Being real is harder than playing a role. It requires courage we're not used to showing. It means being vulnerable, and we were taught that vulnerability is weakness. It means risking being rejected, misunderstood, ridiculed. But that's the only way to really live. The only way to really love. The only way to leave something real behind, not a perfect image, but a living memory of a living person. Take off your masks. Don't wait for the perfect moment, it won't come. Tell the truth to those you love, today, now, while they can still hear. Because life is short, shorter than you think. I thought I had plenty of time. And now I'm 80, and I understand that time is the only thing we never had enough of. Real connections, that's the only thing that matters. Everything else is dust. If this story taught you something, share it with someone who needs it. Write in the comments what you'll say today and to whom. I'm genuinely curious. I read all the comments, sometimes until 3 in the morning. Subscribe if you want to hear more from people like me, people who made mistakes and want to help you avoid them. We've lived our lives. Now we want you to live yours better. Take care of each other. Tell the truth, love out loud, and be real. That's the only thing you won't regret. You know what surprises me most now? Young people genuinely believe they're different, that they have a different time, more complex rules, and a completely new, previously unknown world. But human nature hasn't changed, it has only changed form. We're still panicking with fear of being vulnerable and open, so we build high walls out of pixels. We hide behind flickering phone screens because they give us an illusion of control, instead of daring to risk real closeness and look into eyes. We send dead emojis to fill the silence, instead of finding the courage within ourselves to speak aloud what actually hurts or brings joy. We've replaced the living voice with messages that can be edited, but real feelings cannot be edited. My grandson James once showed me how people communicate on the internet. Hundreds of friends, thousands of followers. And I asked him, "And with which of them can you talk at 3 in the morning when you're feeling bad?" He fell silent. Because the answer was no one. All these contacts, all these connections, they're just as superficial as they were in my generation. Just now it's called something different. Technology has changed. People know. We're still lonely in the middle of a crowd, still afraid to tell the truth, still playing roles. Only now these roles are perfect photos and successful posts, but inside, the same emptiness, the same need for real connection, the same thirst to be seen and heard. I see young people crying from loneliness while having 1,000 friends online. I see couples sitting in restaurants looking at phones instead of each other. I see families where everyone's in one room but each in their own screen. And I want to scream, look at each other, talk, while there's still time, because there's less time than you think. That's the only truth I know for sure after 80 years. There's always less time than it seems, and the most terrible thing is spending it on falseness, on roles, on masks, on fine and all good. We're born real. Have you watched how children communicate? They can't lie about feelings. When they're sad, they cry. When they're happy, they laugh. When they need help, they ask. And then we teach them, don't cry, you're a boy, don't show that you're in pain, be strong, manage on your own. And slowly, step by step, we turn real people into actors. I did this with my children. My parents did this with me, and their parents with them. Generation after generation, we pass on this poison. We call it upbringing, tradition, good manners. But in reality, it's fear. Fear of being real, fear of being open. Fear that if the world sees your crack, it will definitely strike there. We build walls instead of bridges and call it maturity. We learn to perfectly keep face when everything inside is tearing to pieces, and we take pride in this self-control. But what's the price? The price is loneliness in a crowd of closest people. But you can stop. I stopped, albeit late, at the very sunset, but I stopped. And my grandson James sees this. He sees a grandfather who's not afraid to hug him just like that, without reason. He sees that it can be different, that you can tell the truth even if it's uncomfortable. That you can be weak and still be a man, because real courage isn't in not feeling pain, but in having the courage to acknowledge it. Maybe he won't repeat my mistakes. Maybe he'll teach his children to be real from the very beginning, not waiting 80 years to finally exhale. That's my hope. The only hope I have left in this silence of an empty room, that someone will hear this story and do differently. That someone will look at their life, at this endless race in a maze of expectations, and say, no, I don't want this. I want to be real. I want to love out loud, not afraid of seeming sentimental. I want to know and be known. We're so afraid of strangers' judgment that we forget. Those strangers are just as scared and just as hiding behind their decorations. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm telling you this, gathering the remnants of my strength. Not for myself, for you, because I'm already 80. My time is almost up. The sand in the hourglass is no longer pouring but barely trickling. But yours, no, you still have years, decades. A whole life ahead that can be filled with meaning, not just survival. Don't wait for a diagnosis to become real. Don't wait until your body starts betraying you to finally say to your soul, now it's your turn to speak. Start today, right now, call someone you love. Say what you've wanted to say for a long time but postponed for better times. There are no better times than now. Stop playing the role of successful, unshakable, or correct. Take off the mask, it's pressing on you, I know, and even if it's scary, do it anyway, because on the other side of fear is real life, real love, real connection. Everything we're actually looking for in money, career, or recognition, but never find there. I am Edwin Carter. I'm 80 years old. All my life I was afraid of being real, afraid that I wouldn't be understood or would be pushed away. And only at the end did I understand how much I lost trying to be right in others' eyes. Don't repeat my mistakes. Live for real, love for real. Tell the truth even if your voice trembles. And take care of those who are near, because they won't be near forever, neither will you. The world won't remember your perfect mask. It will only remember the light you radiated when you were yourself. Thank you for listening. Thank you for paying attention and being with us until the end. Now go and live. Don't exist, don't function, but truly live. For real, one more thing. If you have someone you haven't really talked to for a long time, father, mother, brother, sister, an old friend you parted with over petty pride, don't wait. Time doesn't wait. It's the greediest of all creditors. People leave unexpectedly in the middle of a sentence, in the middle of winter or summer. And when they leave, only the words you didn't say remain. They become heavy stones in your pockets that you can't throw away. Don't let these words remain unspoken. Say them today. Just now pick up the phone or reach out your hand. This is the beginning of your real life.